Were you surprised by the move?
You know, I wasn't. I thought they could have had an argument to move him 2 weeks ago, move him down, because a couple things. First off, the offense has been there, and he's made an adjustment with his swing, and he needed more reps, and he hasn't really been getting it in part-time. But the defense is the reason why I would have considered it 2 weeks ago, and it's not getting any better. You know, the overall, he's never been a good guy that blocks a lot of balls, you know, especially on the one knee. So that hasn't been, it hasn't gone backwards. What's really gone backwards for him is the framing, the receiving. And Carlos talked about this last night, but he was last year at 88th percentile. I mean, he was a framing machine, one of the best in the sport. He has gone the other direction this year, and I feel like the offense has impacted his defense. There have been times where he's gotten lax, and balls that he would normally catch and frame and stick for a strike are going off his glove for a pass ball or a wild pitch. So I think that, to me, he has to button that up. You could have argued keeping him up here a little bit longer if his defense was good, but because both have gone south, you got to get him down and for a reset. So that's how I felt about it.
The defense and offense sort of mixing together was the first real red flag for me. When one impacts the other, you're a catcher. You have to take care of that first. You have to be defensively oriented first and foremost. And he was doing that last year, even amidst his struggles. So I wouldn't say I was purely surprised, but how about this timing? It was just weird timing to me that Mets have known there's an issue for a couple weeks, and they picked after a win where they bust out on Saturday. What message did that send? I just thought the timing was interesting and maybe could have been handled a little bit differently, especially when you know Alvarez has been a problem going on, 2.5 weeks?
And do you have any insight into the timing of it, or what went into this decision overall?
You know, they've been thinking about it for a little while. We talked about it on the show on Friday.
Yes.
Which is like, this is something that could be a possibility pretty soon. Some other reporters wrote about it. I think once this gets out into the bloodstream of the discussion, you have to do it pretty quickly if you're going to do it, or you have to tell the player that you're not going to do it. I remember at least 10 years ago when it was, is Ike Davis going to go down? And it was like a topic for what felt like weeks. Starting to mess with him, like, hey, Ike, how you doing? Did you get sent down today? No? Okay, I'll ask you tomorrow. So they couldn't draw it out too much longer, and it was just obvious that it was needed. As you guys were discussing, I'll put it a harsher way. And I really like Francisco Alvarez as a person and as a potential star player, but he really wasn't doing anything at the major league level, meaning he wasn't doing anything in a way that was big league quality. The numbers there with catching don't even speak to the actual game calling and game management, which he'd had a few issues with that as well, including one that we saw with Reed Garrett recently. So I just think it was something that absolutely had to happen. They wanted to drag this out a little because they wanted him to get right at the big league level. That would be the preference than having Hayden Senger on the roster instead. But you're trying to win games here, and he wasn't helping you win games.
Yeah,
so time was up.
You're trying to win games first and foremost. You're also trying to develop him the best way that you can. Keeping him up here is not that. It's not working. They did the right thing. Instead of banging their head against the wall and sticking with him here, send him down, let him get right. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road for Francisco Alvarez. The Mets made some other roster moves today, brought to you by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Left-handed reliever Richard Lovelady signed a one-year MLB contract. Old friend Travis Jankowski was selected to the big league roster. Tyler Zuber and Luis Angel Acuna optioned to AAA, and Jose Siri was transferred to the 60-day IL. Whew, okay, Andy, how are the Mets viewing the development of their young players?
Well, clearly there's some questioning of like what's going on here. Why do all our top prospects why are they all now not succeeding at the major league level? So what you saw in continuing our discussion about what happened with Alvarez over the weekend was a different approach, and it continued with Acuna today. It's more of an aggressive, like, okay, not only primarily the objective is to get these guys down and help continue their development and get them to play, which is obviously what they need to do with Ronnie Mauricio as well. I assume they will in a couple of days when Vientos comes back. But it's also, there's a secondary, whether it's intentional or not, of a little bit of a jolt to the clubhouse and to the younger players. Like, all right, you got to earn your way here every day. And there's nothing that any of these young players did to take for granted that they were there. They're all like have good attitudes and work hard and are winning young players from everything I've ever seen. But that doesn't mean that it's not healthy sometimes to be like, you don't produce, you're going to go down there. And also, it's not punitive because they just need to play and develop. So, again, you're seeing the Mets start to churn that more aggressively because it's just come time where they're concerned enough about what's going on at the big league level with some of these kids.
I love it. It's refreshing. You shouldn't be learning at the big league level. I've gotten on the Yankees for years with that. It drives me up a wall. They let these guys. Look at Anthony Volpe. He was supposed to be a superstar. Never sent them down the first year. Now they're in too deep in year 3. You can't send them down at this point. You may completely ruin them. So I like the fact that the Mets are being aggressive here.